The detached market here in Vancouver has definitely come out of its slumber along with other parts of Greater Vancouver, but this market update is just for Vancouver itself. Vancouver East, Vancouver West, we're going to dive into where are the best places to sell, where are the best places to buy. We have analytics and advanced stats here. So this is going to be your most comprehensive and detailed market update for March of 2024. We have seen big time increases in terms of price point for Vancouver's east side and Vancouver's west side when it comes to the detached market. I've been saying all along, for those who've been looking to get into the detached market, the time to get into that detached market was yesterday. And now we're starting to see that turbulence and momentum of that detached market, as between all three categories, between townhouses, apartments, and the detached market was the softest, and now it is going to start catching up. Hi, my name is Kyle Mark, your Vancouver Realtor, and whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocate to my beautiful city, Vancouver, make sure you book that strategy call with me in the description below. I am super easy to get a hold of, and I'm here to help. So I'm going to be doing this live with you. I have my data just on the other side of my cameras. We're doing a lot of screen shares so you can see the data in real time, as well as coming back to my beautiful face. So as we start here, we're going to just take a look at both Vancouver East, Vancouver West, what they're doing in terms of price points, listings, sales across all three categories, and then dive in a little deeper with those advanced stats to really break down price bands, 1, 2, 3, 4 type of bedrooms, and obviously location. And from there, we're going to be able to see if you're a buyer, where you can get a deal in this market, and if you're a seller, where and when is the appropriate time to sell. So as we move on into, let's do an overview of both of these markets here. So we're going to dive into Vancouver West here, and green shows the detached market, blue is the condo market, and orange is townhome. So as we jump down to this map, you can see the sales to active ratio. The white bar in the middle is balanced market conditions, and you can see that there has been a nice little rebound in the townhouse sector, and it is just starting to get into that seller market conditions at 22%. The condo market is sitting at 20.7% sales to active ratio. So balanced market just trending into that seller market conditions, and the detached market is now in balanced market conditions. You can see for the last several months here on Vancouver West, it has been a buyer's market here in the detached markets around. And you can see in the last couple months here in the green that it has been in fact a buyer's market where it's starting to creep up into balanced market conditions. But what is super interesting is just how we have that 5.5% increase year to year, outperforming both of these other categories, even though it has been a lot lower in priority. So that's something that's very, very interesting. So as we pull up the stats here, let's go over all of them. Vancouver West, total active listings were down 0.2%. Sales were down 33%. Days on market dropped to 32 days, dropping from 50 to 34, and pricing went up 5.5%. So now for Vancouver West side, you have a whopping average benchmark price of $3.452 million. When we get into condos here, we can see that total active listings increased 12%. Sales were down 3%. Days on market increased 6% to 32 days on market, and benchmark pricing increased 4.6%, where an average condo on Vancouver's west side is $856,700. Finally, townhouses, where are we? We can see that listings were up 24.9%, sales were up 53.1%, days on market average up 7% to 30 days on market, and the benchmark pricing 4.2% increase, where an average townhouse is going to get you $1.483 million on Vancouver's west side. As we roll into Vancouver's east side now, we want to check out the sales to active ratio map to see where we are, and then break down that data from there. You can see that 2 out of 3 categories, so both apartments and townhomes, are in seller market conditions. They've had a nice rebound since around December. So the townhouse market is sitting at a 25.7% sales to active ratio, so seller market conditions. Condo is the hottest category out of the 3, 27.9% sales to active ratio, and the detached market has been making some improvements since January, trending in the right direction to solid balanced market conditions at 18.8%. So similar to what we saw on Vancouver's west side, even though the detached detached market is in the balanced market conditions and has been on the low side in terms of priority and in terms of overall activity, it has still seen the biggest mover year-to-year sales. So 8.2% increase on detached properties. We're seeing an average detached property in Vancouver's east side sitting at $1.852 million, which is insane. So that is a huge mover in terms of price point. And you can only imagine that once this green marker jumps up to those seller market conditions, what are these price points going to do month to month and even a year out? So definitely if you're in that detached market, I would say getting your home ready for the spring market or fall market is going to be good, because there's going to be some really nice returns. So as we run down the ledger here, total active listings 416, an increase of 16.9%. Sales just 78, drop of 16.1% year over year. Days on market dropped 17% to 28 days. And obviously we know the pricing, $1.852 million for your detached market on Vancouver's east side. When we go to condos, we saw 451 total active listings, a 32.6% increase. Sales increased 14.5%, 126 sales in the month of March. Days on market dropped 28%, and we're starting to get into that low tier. Just 20 days on market was the average for a condo on Vancouver's east side, with a benchmark price an increase of 4% from last year, $714,400. So the condo market, if you're on Vancouver's east side and you've been thinking of selling, very, very good time right now for that. And like I said, later in the video, we're going to break down what specific price bands and locations are doing the best and where you're going to get the best opportunity if you're a buyer. As we roll down to townhouses, we've seen that the total active listings sit at 101, an increase of 36.5%. Sales dropped 29.7%, so just 26 sales in that townhouse market, and that's going to start to really shrink and put pressure on buyers out there, which is going to probably increase that price point as we continue into the spring market. A drop of 60% of days on market of just 18, so that is very, very quick movement. And the MLS HPI benchmark price, an increase of 5.3%, $1.148,700,000 for your average townhouse in Vancouver's east side. So, you know, we're looking at this data and we're already seeing that there's been a lot of increase in movement and activity. Remember, we haven't even started to see when these rates are starting to come down. Next week, Tiff McCallum and the Bank of Canada is going to have their next policy rate announcement. They're not going to do anything, I highly doubt it, this month, but it's going to be interesting if Tiff will actually make a date and stand by a date of when he perceives the Bank of Canada will lower those policy rate announcements. A lot of people out there are, mainly the Bank of Canada, are scared now. If they start dropping their pricing, what is it going to do to the housing market? We've already seen with this data that things are starting to speed up. I mean, on averages on Vancouver's east side, just 18 days on market for an average townhouse, 20 days on market for an apartment. That's average. So for them to already have a day on market that are under 3 weeks, that means the majority, there's going to be a huge majority of properties that are selling in single digits. And I've been seeing that working with buyers already, not just in Vancouver, but all over the lower mainland. Things are moving quickly and multiple offers are back. And that's when we start to see those days on market drop down and pricing starts to go up. But I still think it's very, very interesting for those detached markets to be on the bottom in terms of the sales to active ratio, but still having the biggest movement in price. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get into the snap stats. So these are paid analytic numbers that really break down the data even more into price bands, how many bedrooms, location. So you can really start to pattern and see that depending on what kind of home you have and what kind of location, does it make sense for you to sell, to hold, or if you're a buyer, where to purchase. One thing I want to make abundantly clear with the attached data here, the attached data, they combine both condos and townhouses, duplexes, things of that nature into one number. But we can see that when we go into the price points, we'll be able to really clearly see which one is likely to be a condo depending on price, or a townhouse or duplex, etc. So we're going to start with Vancouver's west side, just like we did off the top here. So let's jump now into Vancouver downtown. So these advanced stats that I use break down the downtown core of Vancouver really nicely. You can't really find that anywhere with those board stats. There's no detached properties, but this is strictly going to be on condos and townhomes. And as we look at these data sheets, they break the data down into a couple different categories: community, price band, and bedroom. And then they have some nice notes on the bottom as well. So as we look at this Vancouver downtown items here, we can see that overall the sales to active ratio is at 18%. So as we break down these board stats here, we're going to start with Vancouver downtown. And what's nice about the data here, the board stats don't really point to this or give us any insights. So we're going to look at the community, price band, and bedrooms, as well as some other comments on what's going on in the Vancouver downtown core. So what we can see is overall the sales to active ratio on average is 18%, which is just a little bit lower than both the Vancouver East and Vancouver West condo stats. Keep in mind, downtown Vancouver does have a Vancouver East and a Vancouver West portion, but they're just assimilating all of this together. So on average, strong balanced market conditions. There is the West End actually is performing the best at 23%. They had 43 sales, 189 inventory, so just in seller market conditions in the West End. In terms of everything else is pretty much the same, Cole Harbour, Yaletown, 13-14%, just barely in those balanced market conditions. When we're looking into price band and bedrooms in terms of winners and losers, this is what we are going to take a look at here. So we can see that anything in the single digits here is buyer market conditions. So if you're looking at high-end properties from 2.75 million and upwards, you're in that buyer market category. But anything else, and this is like no surprise, anything ranging from 300,000 all the way up to 900,000. So this is definitely condo territory. You're in seller market conditions just a little bit. These super low ones, 300 to 400 or 400 to 500, those are likely lease land properties. There's lots of lease land in the West End area in downtown Vancouver, and that's where you're going to see some of these really low priced units there. And it's funny too, like 0 to 300,000, you can say, what is that? Well, you can actually list parking stalls, things of that nature on the MLS, so that may be why we see some of this data in here. But if you're going above that 900,000 mark all the way up to 1.5, you're in balanced market conditions. So definitely something that is pretty favorable for either buyers or sellers to come together and make a deal. So on average 18%, just like we saw in the community. In terms of bedrooms, 0 to 1 bedrooms are in seller market conditions. So when we compare all these things together, if you're looking at a 1 bedroom in the West End, in and around that $500,000 to $900,000 range, you're gonna have some pretty decent competition, that's for sure. As we move down here in the downtown, there's some nice notes here. Homes are selling on average 100% of list price. Most active price band is between 400,000 to 500,000. Buyers best bets, homes between 1.75 million to 2 million, Cole Harbour or 3-bedroom properties. Sellers best bets, selling homes in the West End and up to 1-bedroom properties. So if you're a seller, and this is like I said right off at the beginning here, if you're in the West End 1-bedroom property, it's a no-brainer. You should be looking at listing your home. Buyer's best bet, if you're looking for something that's higher end in Cole Harbour, bigger units, you're going to have a better time in terms of getting a deal. In terms of the price point, it's sticking around the same. It's for the last year it's shifted between 825,000 to 770. So there hasn't been a big discrepancy in the last year. It's held its value pretty well. When we go into Vancouver's west side, let's go with the detached market here, and you can see that on average, we're seeing that there's a 13% sales to active ratio. And I'm not gonna go too deep in these averages. I'm really just gonna pick out the winners and losers because a lot of these data points we already went over. So if we look on certain areas, places where you're wanting to sell, places where you're wanting to buy, Southwest Marine and Shaughnessy, are heavily in buyer market conditions. So I would be focusing on that, on the detached market for some opportunity. As a seller, whether you are in Kitsilano, which is a no-brainer, Dunbar, those are the ones that are just getting into those seller market conditions. Price bands anywhere from essentially 2 million to 3.5 million, you are in seller market conditions. So if you have entry-level homes in that Vancouver's west side, there is a lot of competition out there, and you can see that with the data. As you get above that $5 million mark, you are starting to get into those buyer market conditions. But what's interesting, for a lot of time, there's been a lot of data like this, a lot of zeros with this higher end property, but we're starting to see some movement. There were 3 sales above 7.5 million, 3 sales between that 6 million mark. So when these higher end properties start to move, that's another good indicator that this market is starting to heat up here as well. On average, homes are selling 1% below list price, so that's pretty good. Most active price band 2.5 to 275 or 3 to 3.5. Those are in seller market conditions. Buyers' best bets, homes in that $7.5 million range, or homes in Cambie, Southwest Marine, Shaughnessy, and minimum 7 bedrooms. Seller best bets, selling homes in Dunbar, Kitsilano, Point Grain, 5 to 6 bedroom. Those are the ones that you want to be making a discovery call with me in the description below to get your home listed and get you some good money for that. Over the last 13 months, the pricing has stayed pretty much the same. It's been going back and forth the last little bit. Also has held its value pretty well through these mortgage rate increases and highs. Vancouver's west side, let's see the winners and losers here when it comes to condos and townhomes. So on average, 26%. Like I said, this combines all attached properties at seller market conditions. If you're looking for a loser, there really isn't too many. I mean, there's on South Granville. Actually, yeah, South Granville is somewhere where you definitely want to key in on. 42 inventory, just 1 sale. So you're likely could get a good price point in there. Other than that, everything is quite competitive. Kilchina, 114%. Mackenzie Heights, 100%. Shaughnessy, 50%. Not a lot of data to go behind there, but still the ones where you have some higher data points. Kitsilano, 67%. Marpole, 27%. False Creek, 29%. So in any of those areas, if you're an attached property, you're looking good for selling. And then it's pretty competitive from that $400,000 mark all the way up to 1.5 million. You're in seller market conditions too. So that's, condos, 2-bedroom condos that are quite nice, starting to get into townhomes as well in those price bands. So on average with those price bands, 26% sales to active ratio, which is those seller market conditions. If we're looking on homes are selling on average 1% above list price, and buyers' best bets are between 2.25 million to 2.5 million in South Granville, and minimum 4-bedroom property. So if you're looking to get into something a little bit bigger apartment, things of that nature, that's where you're wanting to key in on. On the opposite, selling homes in Kits, Kilchino, and 1-bedroom apartments, those are your seller best bets, and that's really no surprise. So, if you're pairing all of this sort of stuff up, Kitsilano is 67% sales ratio for location, and then if you pair it to something that's entry level between this $500,000 to $900,000 mark, 1-bedroom 31%, that's a no-brainer for you to get on market and start listing your place. As we move down to Vancouver's east side and looking at some winners and losers here, so we'll start here with the detached market again. Collingwood is dropping 4%. When the average is 20%, heavy balanced market conditions. So right off the top, 90 inventory for sales. A lot in this Collingwood, why there's a lot of inventory, there's a lot of land assembly because of the newest community plan. So a lot of these properties, highly inflated numbers, trying to get these land assembly numbers that just don't make sense. So that's why the inventory is quite high. But for sales, a lot of people in that area think there's a lot of value. So they're not ready to make a deal in there, but there could be some possibilities. Renfrew Heights, buyer market conditions as well. 39 inventory, 14 sales. If we're looking for sellers, where are we keen in on that has some, pretty good data? Renfrew Heights, don't get them mistaken, buyer's market. Renfrew itself, 36% on the complete opposite, heavy seller market conditions. Main Street, 44%, and Hastings Sunrise, 55%. So there's some really good winners here in terms of demographics for a community. When it comes to price points, there's not a huge range here. You can see that from it's 1.25 to 4 million. Anything that's between that 1.25 to 2.25 million dollars, up to 62%. Very heavy seller market conditions. If you pop into, and that's why I like these numbers, these stat lines, right? Because you see this between this 2 million to 2.25, heavy seller market conditions, and 2.5 to 2.75 seller market conditions. But there's a little soft spot right here, right now, between $2.25 and $2.5 million. This is where these stats really come in handy when you're looking to either buy or sell. You can find soft little pockets in there. And then if we go down below with some of these comments and looking at the price stat lines, homes are selling on average 5% above list price. So this is really good news for anyone who's on Vancouver's east side. Most active price band between 1.5 to 1.75. Not really going to get much in that range on Vancouver's east side, and that makes sense that it's a 63% sales to active ratio. Buyers best bets, homes between 3.5 and 4 million. So if you're looking at something like that on Vancouver's east side, you'd have to get pretty close to that dividing line between Vancouver East and Vancouver West to get into that 3.5, 4 million mark. I'm in Vancouver East. I'm on the Fraser area, which is on Vancouver's east side. There are some homes that are getting into that 3.5-4 mark. They're beautiful and they're large, but you're definitely having to stay a little bit closer to Vancouver's west side. Collingwood, Renfrew Heights, and 2-bedroom properties. And then sellers best bets, Hastings, Sunrise, Maine, and 3 to 4 bedroom properties are very, very hot. And those are the ones that are likely in this 5% above list price, which is very, very good. You can see that we're at pricing now. In October of last year was a little bit of the pinnacle, but we've seen a pretty steady range since the last year. March at this time, we're seeing at 1.1 million on average. Now we're just settling in just under 2 million. We continue and wrap these things up with the attached market condos and townhomes. Like we said with the board stats, we're in seller market conditions, so everything's going to be quite competitive here. If we're looking for some soft spots, downtown Vancouver East is somewhere where we can see a little bit of a buffer in terms of softening of the market. That's in balanced market conditions. South Van 6%, so that's buyer market conditions. 16 active, 1 sale, so there may be some room for some opportunity in there. As we look at some communities here with higher data numbers, Mount Pleasant, no surprise, 43%, 39 sales, a lot of data there. Collingwood, 24%. So in contrast to the detached market, the attached market in Collingwood is doing quite well. Hastings, 74%. We know that in that Hastings area, if you've been around Vancouver recently or live in the area, you can see how quickly that new hospital is taking shape right behind the train station there. So over the next couple years, there's going to be a lot of gentrification in that area with that new hospital going in. So people who are wanting to buy in that area early, it's going to be a good option, whether you're looking to invest or buy, or picking up some detached properties, because there's going to be some land assemblies happening down there, because not only is there a master plan for the hospital, but the outbuildings and what they're wanting to build into that area is very, very large. And finally, if we get some notes on this, homes are selling on average 1% above list price. Most active price band between 5 to 600,000, no surprise there. Buyers best bets, homes between 1.25 and 1.5 million in downtown Maine, South Vancouver, and 3-bedroom properties. Sellers best bets, selling homes in Champlain Heights, Hastings, Knight, and minimum 4-bedroom properties. And we can see that the pricing now is actually the highest it's been on average in the last 13 months. And inventory, it has climbed up along with the pricing, which usually it goes on the reverse, but we've been lacking inventory for so long that we have a lot of catch up to do. So I know I went a little bit quick here, but there's a lot of data to digest, so feel free to replay it. But the whole point of doing this together is to make sure, and doing it live off the cuff, so I can get my own real reaction to some of this data. I like opening this up, going through it with you together live, just so that we can both be educated together and you can get my real response. So if you are in any of these areas, whether you're a seller in some of these seller best bets, make sure you book a call with me. It's in the description below. Let's have a strategy call to see if it makes sense for you to get it listed, what you need to do to get it listed, as well as a buyer. If you're an investor, first time home buyer, if budget is an option, we can also tear these numbers apart. Look for the soft spots in each of these communities, these price bands, so you can at least get into the market. When these mortgage rates start to drop in the next couple months, likely June or July, these numbers are going to be more intense. We're going to see price points higher. There's going to be more competition. As I mentioned,